The newest TX-6 update is a game changer, and it was exactly what I was asking for in this video right here. And now you can do things like this, this, and even this. But is it a little too late? And is the TX-6 even still relevant? Now, just to make it clear, this update has been out for a few weeks or a couple of months, I think, so it's not a brand new update by the time of release for this video. But I've been wanting to make a video about this, but life has kind of got in the way, and in this video I'll talk about how the newest update radically increases the usability of this little mixer. And also how the sampler is still a pretty big disappointment. So let's start with the biggest one, the sequencer. In my video, 1 year with the TX-6, I was asking for a pitch sequencer where the users could program pitches themselves, something similar to the OP1 finger sequencer. And although I doubt anyone at Teenage Engineering actually saw that video, that feature was exactly what we got. And this is kind of big because that means that a lot of the features like the synth engines, the sequencer, and the MIDI out compatibility are now usable. Because let's face it, the synth engines and the sequencer have not been very useful in any serious way. And the MIDI out has really only been useful as a MIDI clock. So let's take a look at how you can use the sequencer with the synth engines. Before, you had to use one of the preset sequences, but they were set to only one pitch, so in order to change the pitches, you would have to do it manually in real time, which was really actually pretty impossible to do. But now, since you can program pitch sequences, you can make patterns like this. And since you also have a new detune feature, you can run 2 tracks in unison and get that rich detuned synth sound. One way this can be very useful is for daw-less setups, so that you can, for example, program a bass line or some sort of repeated pattern without taking away voices from other devices. However, the sequences are limited to only 4 bars per sequence, so you realistically are not going to be able to program whole songs using the sequencer. But it is still a big improvement from just having predetermined sequences where you're not able to control the pitch. The next one is MIDI out compatibility. Now the new MIDI out synth feature is something I'm pretty stoked about. Because now not only can you send your sequences to external synths, but you can also use the TX-6 as a Bluetooth MIDI interface and use it to connect Bluetooth MIDI keyboards to other devices. So here I'm going to control a few devices using a TX-6, and we'll send MIDI from TX-6 to this MIDI interface, from here to this MIDI interface right here, and then send MIDI from there to the Microfreak, the Dirty Wave Mate, OPZ, and the Moog Mother 32. And then we'll just connect this Bluetooth MIDI keyboard to the TX-6, and we got a pretty juicy setup. Now this is a super cool feature because you can route each of the 6 tracks to whatever MIDI channel you want. So you can have a separate device being controlled by each track. Now I have each track here set to a different MIDI channel. So the first track sends MIDI to the Mate, second track sends to the OPZ, the third to the Moog Mother 32, fourth sends internally to a kick drum, the fifth sends internally to a snare, and the sixth sends to this Microfreak, Artillery Microfreak. And I got this very cool Bluetooth MIDI keyboard connected to the TX-6 that sends MIDI to the TX-6 that again sends it out to the various devices. So set this to channel 1, you will hear the mate play like that. If I set to channel 2, you will hear the OPZ. If I set to channel 3, you will hear the Moog. Channel 4 is a kick. Channel 5 snare. Channel 6, the Arturia Microfreak. So what's so cool about that is that you now can use the TX-6 as a Bluetooth MIDI interface for devices like this that have BLE MIDI out. So you have the MIDI coming from here to TX-6, sending through this Dora MIDI interface into the various devices. So now I can make a little track using this little MIDI controller because it's just connected to the TX-6. That's the brain of the entire operation. Okay, let's look at the missed opportunity of the sampling engine. Now, the sampler has also been practically useless because between the time limitation of each sample and the lack of any meaningful pitch manipulation, you haven't been able to do much musically with the sampler engine, aside from maybe using rhythmic samples as either one-shots or loops. And this is where we still run into a problem. Because unfortunately, the samples can't really be sequenced into pitched sequences in the same way that the synths can. I'm not completely sure why this is the case, but I was hoping that I could sample a one-shot sample and sequence it melodically in order to not be stuck with the synth engines. But unfortunately, if you try to sequence a melodic one-shot sample through the sequencer, it sounds like this. Maybe someone would like to explain in the comments why the samples don't get tuned so that they can be used melodically, because I don't really know. Now, I'm not going to be too critical about this because this is just a secondary feature. And I'm pretty sure that extremely few people will consider getting the TX-6 because of the sampler feature. And the workflow is too clunky to be anyone's main sampler device anyways. But since we do have it available, it would be cool if it was a little more functional. So, to conclude, I love that the sequencer has gotten more functionality and that it can now be used in a more musical way, and it also drastically increases the usability of the synth engines. The MIDI synth generator is also a great addition and allows the TX-6 to be used as a hub for both MIDI and audio, and it really changes how the device can be used. Hopefully, we'll see some changes to the sampler engine soon so that the sampler can be more useful as well. But all in all, these new features make the TX-6 a lot more powerful, and they are a very welcome addition. Now, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and you can also check out my latest video right here.